All right, I just now realized that in my narration for my second book, Caves of Ordered Randomness, which is right here, I did not include a introduction to the book, which includes dedications and my preface that I wrote for book 2. This is book 1, for those of you who don't know. Forrester's Fate, the Sacred Shrine in the Valley of Caves. And book 2 is called The Caves of Ordered Randomness. A couple things I wanted to talk about in addition to reading my dedications for the book along with the synopsis of the book, which I'm going to read off of Amazon. I have a briefer one written here. It's a little longer on Amazon. But I wanted to, since I'm going to put this will be the first video for the playlist for book 2. You're going to want to listen to book 1 before you listen to this. There's no point in listening to this playlist until you've listened to book 2. Until you've listened to book 1. But I wanted to say something both to old school gamers and new school gamers with regards to my books. I guess I don't really need to hold them. First of all, they're big books, as you can see. They're big, and I did that. Well, I didn't do it purposely, but I ended up leaving it like this on purpose. This way, it's like a big magical D&D tome. That's how I think of these books, as magical D&D tomes that you can hopefully will enjoy reading and or listening to on my channel. But if you've only played old school D&D, and I've only played old school D&D, I know a little bit about new school. I've watched, I've read, talked to people. So I have a gist of Wizards of the Coast D&D. But if you've only played first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, some of this story you might have a little issue with. For instance, one of the characters in this story is a half-elven ranger druid. That is not a legal class in first edition. In second edition, I believe it was legal. It was first introduced in second edition. And of course, in fifth edition, there are no restrictions. There are lots of restrictions in first edition. So some people might take issue with that, some of you old school gamers. There's also the fact that I referred to the thief as a rogue. I agree with Wizards of the Coast that the rogue is a much better name for that class, and I think it should have been called a rogue from the start. It doesn't bother me. Calling it a thief doesn't really bother me. I just don't think it makes as much sense. But that doesn't matter to me. It's not an important thing. For some of you, it is. Also, the elven fighter magic user is referred to in the second edition terminology, warrior wizard. So you might take issue with stuff like that. However, I'm going to ask that you give me the benefit of the doubt. Despite these terms that you might not like, give this a chance. And I think as you move through the story, you will really enjoy where this story goes. As a fan of old school D&D, I do incorporate into the story level titles. Into the story. You'll see how I do it. Now, it's my own unique twist on it, so I don't follow things exact. I like doing things in my own unique ways, just the way I am. But I appreciate a rules as written first edition playing of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. I would love to play that with any group, first edition. Love to. For me, there's no wrong way to play this game. Whatever rules you want to use, it's your game, your rules, your whatever restrictions you want or don't want, it's your game. So I don't have a problem with it. But to the new schoolers who may not be familiar with old school D&D terminology, a few things in this book might confuse you a little bit. Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. And you can easily learn about level titles from first edition. I think first edition, I don't remember if second edition continued with the level titles. I don't remember. But I had a lot of fun with it. But what you new schoolers will enjoy, and I hope you old schoolers will also enjoy, is that every character in this adventuring party in the book has their own background chapter, written as the tale of whatever their name is and their race and class. And I know that Wizards of the Coast D&D is more narrative driven, more about the story, where TSR D&D is more about gaming. At least that's the emphasis. Not that we didn't have character backgrounds. I'm sure plenty of people, old school gamers, wrote character backgrounds for their characters. We didn't. But for the purposes of the story, I did. So there is a chapter right around the middle of the book where each character gets a background chapter about them. So you learn about each of the characters one at a time, slowly. I kind of incorporated it into the story. So I hope you will enjoy that, all of you new school gamers, because I know you are more story driven, especially if you've never played old school D&D. But I want to say to all of you that I think you will greatly enjoy where this story goes, how it develops, and how it ends. Book 1. How Book 1 ends. Book 2 just picks right up where it left off. I think you will very much enjoy what I did with the story. I could be wrong about that, but I think you will. I'm pretty confident that not only will you not fully figure out or see where the story is going, you will somewhat. You'll see where it's going in some capacity, but not fully. And if you do fully figure it out, I'll be very surprised. And well, you won't know the very ending of book 1. You will not see that coming at all. So I'm giving you, hopefully I'm giving you a reason to invest your time, and listen to the story and see how it goes. So I'm going to read to you now the synopsis of Book 2, The Caves of Ordered Randomness. And all I said on Amazon is this: inspired by the role-playing game Dungeons & Dragons, and written in a very unorthodox way, in the style of a play, Forestera's Fate is D&D in story form. The adventuring party, having gone on a most incredible adventure, and should you skip this if you haven't listened to book 1? Probably. At this point, you should not bother with this and come back to it when you've listened to all of book 1. The adventuring party, having gone on a most incredible adventure in book 1, is now enjoying life in the village of Duran. But as soon as they start desiring to go adventuring again, they are invited to go on a most unusual quest. Book 2 picks up right where Book 1 left off, and eventually the party finds themselves in areas where they've never traveled in before, with the most unexpected of allies. While they search for caves, the gods play games, and the wood elves just wish that everyone would go away and leave them alone. While a character who was only mentioned in book 1 makes a most unusual appearance. The Caves of Ordered Randomness is the most unique adventure that you'll ever go on, and it will have you scratching your head for days as you wonder where this is all heading. So that's the synopsis for the story. Hope that captures your attention, I guess is the best way I'm going to say it. I'm going to just read the 3 of the dedications. There are 4. The first one I'm going to read is, this book is dedicated to Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson, the two men who created the role-playing game Dungeons and Dragons. And I believe that Wizards of the Coast is no longer acknowledging that, supposedly. That's pretty sad if they're not acknowledging that. Without you two, this book never would have been written. You created the greatest game in the world. I just hope that my story honors both of you, and if you were still here, that you'd enjoy reading it. This book is also dedicated to Roger Zelazny and his incredible fantasy series, The Chronicles of Amber, which played a role in the writing of this book. For me, that book series is the best fantasy fiction ever written, and I really hope that one day someone finally turns it into a movie. And the last dedication is as follows. This book is dedicated to Ren Gill. It was your words that got me back to writing again. Not sure I would have finished this book if I hadn't listened to your interviews with Rosalie Reacts. Her channel is now called Rosalie Elliott. I think it was called Rosalie Reacts when I wrote this. And Knox Hill on YouTube. So a big shout out to you two as well. In their interview with Ren, he said how he wasn't outcome driven and how important it is to do what you want to do and not be concerned with the outcome. Those words seemed to cause a shift in my brain, as it had been over a year since I finished writing book 1, as I had become very frustrated with the outcome, as my book just sat on Amazon, doing nothing. That interview was in June of 2023, so thank you, Ren. You inspired me to finish writing this book, and I did it. And that would be 6 months later. That's why I said what I said, but that's okay. It took about 6 months to finish writing this. Oh, preface. Let me read the preface. All right. Because this is not on the chapter 1. When I wrote book 1, I wanted to pay homage to Gary Gygax since he created D&D. I really should have said Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson. Error on my part. So I used materials, that he wrote as the basis for my story. Though it was also based around my D&D campaign, which I sadly never got to run with my family. Having done all that work, but with no one to play with, I decided to just roll up 8 characters and just go adventuring by myself, thus turning my unplayed D&D campaign into a D&D story. As I started writing, though, I quickly realized that I was now both the players and the dungeon master, which was quite fun, as the party always did what I wanted them to do, and yet I still felt like the player, in that I'd think about the situation they were in and contemplated how each of them would feel about what was happening. When would there be disagreements? When would one of them mess up? And how would the others respond when they did? Then there was the issue of character death. When we played back in the 80s, death was a real possibility, even though we used the rule where death occurred at -10 hit points. Something that I've now changed to -5, as -10 seemed a little too easy, while 0 seemed a little unrealistic, let alone brutal. But -5 seemed about right, making death a real threat, yet still avoidable, which allowed characters to fall in battle and go unconscious, but not necessarily die. Today's players apparently want a game that's easy, where death almost never happens. I'm told that some players today still believe in making the game hard, but the writers of the current edition clearly don't agree with that philosophy, which puzzles me greatly. If the game isn't hard, then why play? If the game isn't challenging, then what's the point? How is an easy game more fun than a hard game? The reason D&D quickly became the most popular game in the world was because it was hard. It was a challenge to succeed at it. It was hard to go up levels. It was hard to defeat monsters in battle. And it was hard to survive in a world where magic and monsters were real. That was the point. That's why we played, because it was hard. That's what made it so much fun to play. That's what made the game great. While I drew on some of Gary's materials in Book 1, Book 2 is totally my own creation, my own D&D module that I wrote myself. The fun thing about my module is that anyone can write their own version of it, changing whatever they want. It's completely open-ended, allowing the Dungeon Master to create whatever types of encounters they want and ignoring the ones they don't like. This is one of the great things about this game. You could modify it any way you wanted to, and the rules encouraged you to do just that. This is why I say that D&D isn't about rules. It's about going adventuring. That's what D&D is, no matter what rules you use. You could create a D&D game where everyone rolls up a character that's an alien, mutant, bunny rabbit, werewolf hybrid creature, where you travel in spaceships and have laser guns as weapons instead of long swords and battle axes. Or you can create a game where the players all play characters that are cowboys and Indians, but who cast magical spells. The only limits to how you can play D&D is your imagination. So I really hope that you greatly enjoy reading The Caves of Ordered Randomness, and that it inspires you to create your own set of encounters for your players to explore, regardless of what edition you use. And that's my preface to the story. I hope you will listen to Book 1 if you haven't, and then get into this. One more thing. I use intro and outro music in both books. In Book 2, I tended to go a little longer with the intro and outro music. Maybe that was a mistake. I don't know. But I really got into the music that I used. And in almost every chapter, the music is very themed to the chapter. It fits the chapter really well. There are a few chapters where I didn't use any intro or outro music. Basically, all I have is the background visuals. In Book 2, there are background visuals that you can look at. And sounds, background sounds, just kind of in the background while you listen, which is also the case of Book 1, but Book 1 is a blank screen. So, hope you enjoy listening to this. Now I'll add this to the playlist. Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.